Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. FPL Consult here, and today we're gonna do the Game Week 4 preview where I answer most of the burning questions for this week. This is a new series on the channel. If you guys do enjoy it, please let me know by dropping a like down below on this video so that I know that you guys like this kind of video and I can continue making it as well. But if not, please do subscribe as well if you are new around here. And let's jump straight into the video. So the first portion of this video, we're going to be spending it talking about whether we should sell United and Arsenal assets or not. Now, this question has come up quite a number of times this week, and reason being there are a lot of good options in midfield that are popping up, and in general our United and Arsenal assets just have not been performing to the level that we expected them to, especially since some of us even doubled up on both United and Arsenal at the start of the season, right? In these 3 game weeks that has just passed, it's safe to say that they have not performed to the level that we did expect them to, even though last week Bruno Fernandes did do pretty well. Marcus Rashford got an assist as well. Saka also got something because of a penalty, but in general the sentiment is that we may want to sell them. So in this graphic here, I've kind of ranked the United assets as well as the Arsenal assets in order of preference and whether I think you guys should hold them or sell them. So for the hold section, we have mainly Saka and Bruno at the top, and this is mainly because I think both of them are strong holds for me at this point in time, right? From Arsenal, Bukayo Saka is the one that has the most secure minutes out of all the Arsenal attackers, right? And of course, he's likely to still be on penalties. He's still the first choice penalty taker. Maybe Odegaard may take some penalties, but in general, I still feel like Saka is the first choice penalty taker. And of course, you couple that with how explosive he is at home, right? Given that he has quite a number of home fixtures coming up, I do like that Saka is in this position where he's kind of someone that allows us to get entry into the Arsenal attack that we still want, right? So Saka for me is a firm hold right now. Next up is Bruno Fernandes, and of course, for similar reasons, he's nailed. Not to say that Marcus Rashford is not as nailed, but I think Bruno Fernandes is someone that will play the entire game. Maybe Rashford may get subbed off around 80, 85 minutes, etc. Alright, so Bruno Fernandes, of course, also on penalties, and he's creating loads of chances. His data is actually better than Marcus Rashford's as well for the first couple of game weeks. So Saka and Bruno Fernandes are firm holds for me. And then we move further down the list as Marcus Rashford and the Arsenal guys, Martinelli and Odegaard. So I'll talk about Marcus Rashford first. I think I've put him in the middle here because he's kind of in a weird position where it does make sense to hold him now, because moving forward for the next couple of games, you would expect that he will be playing that left wing position. Simply because it is rumored that Rasmus Højlund is going to start soon, right? This weekend is projected when he would be starting, and if Marcus Rashford plays on the left, I think that is where he does really, really well, right? The past few games he's been playing in the centre forward position. I don't think that is where he's the most natural as well. So I do feel like Marcus Rashford moving forward will be on the left, and that's where we may see something more from him as well. Just like we saw last season where he operated really well on the left. So Marcus Rashford for me is still in that position where I would probably still hold him. For me, I only have one Arsenal and one Manchester United attacker, and that's Saka from Arsenal and Marcus Rashford from Manchester United. So I think I would still be holding both of these players. Marcus Rashford, so for me, I don't think he's a urgent sell. But as for Martinelli and Odegaard, I think both of them are players that you can look to move out of your team, because obviously if you have Martinelli and Odegaard, I would assume you also have Saka, in which case I don't think having 2 Arsenal assets are essential right now. I think there is good reason for you to offload either Martinelli or Odegaard now. Martinelli, his data has been alright, but I think moving forward, Champions League comes into the mix, and of course they're not performing at the levels that I think they should be performing right now. Maybe Arteta may switch things up, and Martinelli has always been a rotation risk with Trossard coming into the side. Now Gabriel Jesus is back as well. Maybe that helps Martinelli's performances, but don't forget that there are other players that have to make way for Gabriel Jesus if he comes in, and of course Martinelli may give way to Trossard if we see some switch ups there. And then of course, as I mentioned just now, Champions League as well. So I don't really like the look of Martinelli moving forward, so he's definitely someone I think you can sell. Odegaard, I think out of all these players here, is the easiest one to sell simply because his data just has not been as good as last season. He overperformed his data last season as well, so that was what we were seeing, and now we're kind of seeing him perform at the levels where his expected data is matching his actual performances as well, which in general is not someone that's going to get a lot of FPL points, right? So I do feel like Odegaard is probably the easiest out of all these assets to sell. So this is the order in which I would sell. I would sell Odegaard, followed by Martinelli. Marcus Rashford is in a tough spot there. You can sell him, you can keep him. For myself, I'm going to keep him. And then there's Bruno and Saka, who I think are firm holds. So hopefully this section was helpful for you guys. And let's take a look at the next section. So for this section, we're going to take a look at the best midfielders to buy now in Game Week 4. There are loads of options to talk about here. So I'm going to rank them in terms of the best buy and optional in terms of my opinion as well. And I'll present the data here and explain a little bit as well. Right, so in terms of my own personal ranking, if I were shopping for a midfielder this week, I would rank James Maddison first, followed by Raheem Sterling, followed by Phil Foden, and so on and so forth. Now, there's good reason as to why I've ranked the top 3 in this order, and I'll get into it now. So basically for James Maddison, I feel like his data is just really good, right? He has 0.45 expected goals, 0.45 expected assists per 90 as well. So in general, he's just someone that's very involved in the Spurs attack. He's on all set pieces, all corners, etc. And of course, he's back fit now. He even played in yesterday's EFL Cup as well, right? So I think James Maddison is the top of my list simply because his routes to points is just so vast, right? He has so many ways to get FPL points as compared to Sterling or Foden, where I think Sterling needs to get something from open play. He's not that much on set pieces, etc., even though he is pretty explosive, right? So James Maddison, I feel is a safer pick, and I feel like in general, he's someone that will continue to tick along the next couple of weeks. He's actually third on the fixture difficulty rating for Spurs over the next 6, but if we actually shorten it to the next 4, Spurs do play Arsenal and Liverpool, so that is quite a tough run for them. So do take note that by going for James Maddison now, you may have to hold him through those tough fixtures as well. Right, so that is something to take note of, but he is actually pretty high up the expected points for the next 6 game weeks, 32.2, and just because of how involved he is in the Spurs attack, I don't see him not matching this at all. Right? I think this is a reasonable estimate. Now, next up, I have Raheem Sterling. Now, Raheem Sterling, of course, coming off an incredible performance against Luton Town, right? He got 19 points as well. So 0.42 expected goals per 90 and 0.27 expected assists per 90. I think these are numbers that we actually used to see from Raheem Sterling last time when he was so explosive, running at defenders, and that's kind of what Pochettino is able to do with Raheem Sterling now. So of course, if he's able to keep that up, I think that is really exciting, and it is a great prospect from a Chelsea attacking perspective, right? Fourth on the fixture difficulty rating, so Chelsea's fixtures, needless to say, are one of the best in the league right now. So I definitely think that Sterling could be someone that's going to get loads of points during this period. He has actually 28.2 predicted points. The thing about Sterling is, as I mentioned, he's going to need to get something from open play. His routes to points isn't that great as compared to Maddison, and that's simply why I've just ranked him lower than James Maddison. Alright, and then third on the list, we have Phil Foden. Now, his numbers are really good, right? 0.33, 0.34, 0.44 expected assists per 90. And we do remember that Newcastle game where he created an incredible number of chances. I think 7 chances created in that game alone. Right, so that is just ridiculous. And in general, when we look at Man City as an attacking outlet, they're just going to score loads of goals. And of course, whether or not their fixtures are tough, you do expect their assets to tick along. The thing with Foden is I think he is a little bit of a risk moving forward. He is in my team, but I think there could be times, especially now when Champions League is in the mix, that he may drop in and out of the starting 11, and that's not something that comforts me a lot, but I think it's something that we will see, and it's something that I will have to stomach as a Foden owner moving forward, right? So if I was shopping for a midfielder right now, I definitely not rank him as high simply because of the minutes risk, right? There's of course Doku coming into the side. There's also Bernardo Silva back from injury as well, right? So I think Foden for me would be ranked below Maddison and Sterling. Now, as for the other midfielders, I have Mbeumo, Eze, Diaby, and Bowen. So I'll talk about Mbeumo and Eze first. Of course, between the two, Mbeumo is looking the better out of the two. He's been returning in almost every game since the season has started. But of course, majority of that came from penalties. So his incredibly high 0.87 xG per 90 is mainly because of the penalties that he's been getting, right? But if you remove the penalties, it actually drops to about 0.33, 0.34, which is still pretty decent for the positions he's taking up. And of course, his expected assist numbers are not as great. So he's more of a goal scorer, playing in the forward position for Brentford, right? They are second in the fixture taker out of all the teams over the next 6 games. So I definitely still think that Mbeumo will continue to tick along. I don't think it's too late to buy Mbeumo, especially for those of you who don't have enough funds to maybe get to that 7 point something bracket where there's Maddison, Sterling, and Foden. You can of course opt to go for Mbeumo. He's also a really great option. I don't think it's too late to jump on him. Now for Eberechi Eze, I've been holding on to him since the start of the season. And he hasn't returned much yet, but I think people are coming around to the idea that Crystal Palace are having a decent run coming up, and Eze is kind of the talisman for them. But in general, I would say that his numbers has not been great, right? 0.14 expected goals per 90, 0.28 expected assists per 90. I really expected more from Eze, but I think he did have quite a number of tough fixtures in the first 3 as well. So moving forward, he's 8th on the fixture taker, 28.2 predicted points over the next 6 game weeks. So I do think like Eze, who is on everything, he's on set pieces, he's on corners, I do think like he will be someone that will continue to get points moving forward. So he has Wolves at home in game week 4. I'm holding him for now. I wouldn't go so far as to say is unnecessary to buy him in game week 4, but I do think he's someone for the watch list as well. Right, and lastly, Diaby and Bowen, both of them great numbers. 0.41 for Diaby for expected goals, 0.58 expected assists. For Bowen as well, 0.58 expected goals and 0.26 expected assists. These numbers are incredible numbers for both of them. And let's be honest, we didn't think that these two assets would do so well in the starting game weeks. And we're coming around to the idea that maybe we should get them. But I think because of how tough their fixtures are moving forward, 15th on the ticker for Aston Villa for Diaby and 19th on the ticker for Bowen for West Ham. I think those are fixtures that will be really tough for them. So I think for the time being, I wouldn't go for Diaby and Bowen. And their predicted points actually show that, right? It's about 25 points for both of them. And in general, you would think that the way that they're performing, their predictions would be much higher. But because the predictions factor in the tough fixtures that are coming up for them, I think for the moment, they are maybe an avoid as well. Maybe for a 1 week punt, if you are wildcarding in game week 5, maybe. But I think aside from that, Diaby and Bowen for me at this point in time would be optional assets. I wouldn't go for them. I would definitely prioritize someone like Maddison, Sterling, or Foden ahead of Diaby and Bowen. So hopefully this section covers most of the questions that you guys have about midfielders and how I rank them, as well as which ones I would go for. So for this last section, we're going to talk about whether we should sell our Brighton assets or not. Now, I would say that it's definitely not a priority right now to sell your Brighton assets, even though their fixtures are really tough. Now, there's a couple of reasons for this. I feel like there are more urgent and pressing issues that we may want to solve. Right? Some of us have injuries. Some of us want to strengthen our midfield with the midfield section that we just talked about just now. So I wouldn't say that getting rid of Brighton assets is definitely top of the priority. But for those of you without any urgent moves to make, I do think like there is cause to consider whether we should sell our Brighton assets or not. Now, taking a look at their fixtures, I think it just does not look great at all. They're actually 20th. They're last on the fixture ticker for the next 6 game weeks. Newcastle at home, Manchester United away, followed by a decent fixture with Bournemouth at home, and then they play Aston Villa away. That's not an easy fixture by any means, followed by Liverpool at home and Man City away. So arguably, this is one of the worst fixture runs that they have right now, and definitely now is a point where you can consider selling. I'm not against selling Brighton assets. And if you take a look at the expected goals conceded per 90 numbers, they're actually not great. Right? It's 2.1 expected goals conceded per 90, which is 14th in the league. They haven't kept any clean sheets at all from game week 1. So some people are considering selling Estupiñán, and I'll be honest, I'm not against the idea. I think it's fine as well, but for now, it's just not a priority for me, and I don't think it would be a priority for a lot of people. But for those of you with free moves, maybe you have 2 free transfers, you need to spend it somewhere, I'm not against the idea of selling Estupiñán for maybe Udogie or even Kieran Trippier, moving early for him. Maybe it's something that I would consider, right? So I'm not against the idea of selling Brighton assets in general, right? And of course, it depends on which Brighton asset you're talking about. If you're talking about Estupiñán, as I mentioned, you can choose to sell him. It's not a priority, but you can choose to sell him. João Pedro, I feel like is someone you definitely need to get out of your team, whether or not Enciso is fit or he comes back from injury. João Pedro has been a rotation risk from game week 1, let's be honest, and then of course he dropped out of the starting 11 for game week 2 and game week 3 as well. So he's definitely a sell moving forward, whether or not he's on penalties. He's not getting the starts that we do want from an FPL asset, and that's kind of why I think for João Pedro he's definitely a sell. Now if you have Kaoru Mitoma, I think it starts to get a little bit different here. The conversation would shift a little bit to whether you think Kaoru Mitoma does well over the next couple of game weeks. And the reason I say this is because Brighton have been doing super well in the attacking department regardless of their opponents, right? So XG per 90 is 3.1 expected goals per 90, which is the first in the league. It's even better than Man City. The numbers that they're putting up for this attacking department is just insane, right? And of course, Mitoma has been pretty involved in the attack for Brighton, so I really do like the look of Mitoma. But the thing is, fixtures bring form, and I still back that as well. I still feel like moving forward they will be facing very, very tough opponents, and because of that I think the expected goal numbers would drop. So I do actually think that there is cause to sell Mitoma as well for one of the midfielders that we talked about just now in the previous section. Maybe if you want to look somewhere around the similar price range, maybe in Mbeumo or even Eze if you don't have Eze yet. But I do think like there is cause to think about whether you should sell Mitoma. Once again, I don't think it's a priority. I wouldn't go out of my way to sell him or take a hit to sell Mitoma. But I do feel like if you have free transfers lying around, then definitely Mitoma to maybe an upgrade of Maddison or Sterling is something that would excite me as well. Because looking at their fixtures, I really don't think like there will be loads of goals for Brighton. I actually do think like goals would be few and far between, but you never know with De Zerbi. He's just so good with his attacking tactics that I do feel it's possible Mitoma may continue to get returns moving forward as well. So that's my thoughts on the Brighton assets. Let me know what you guys think of your Brighton assets, and are you looking to sell them as well? But if not, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know if you like this kind of content so that I can continue making it. Let me know by dropping a like on the video and also a comment as well. But if not, thank you guys for watching to this point, and I'll catch you guys in more Game Week 4 content very soon. Bye bye.